Hello, I'm Joey Legrand, and welcome to part 2 of Understanding RxNorm. Where we left off was we had gone over an example of an RxNorm query, which is kind of long and abstract and a little bit difficult to read, and introduced the idea of possibly a different way of organizing the data that's in RxNorm to be more conceptually easy to approach, and how people might model the ideas or concepts of drugs and medications when they think about them just commonly. So this was the example query we left off with, which was basically starting from a clinical product table, joining an ingredient table, specifying the clinical product ID that you wanted, and then getting the ingredient name. This query reads kind of like a paragraph, and you can kind of understand, even if you don't know SQL, what we're trying to do with this query. And so I wanted to kind of continue down that path and explain, how I think about the organization of drug information within RxNorm, which builds on this as clinical product, ingredient, things like that. So we're going to walk through kind of a tree of how I think about this. And then I think the next video we'll talk about how to write some queries using this conceptual model of what drug information is, in my head at least. So we're going to explore this big tree on the left-hand side, starting where we started at the beginning of this series with NDCs. So NDCs, as we talked about in the first talk or lecture, was that they represent clinical products. So multiple NDCs can represent one clinical product of an ingredient strength dose form that has different manufacturers and different pack sizes, but really it's all the same product. Those clinical products can be a pack or a generic pack, which would be like birth control or things like that have two different strengths of products in them. But more commonly, NDCs represent just a single product, which could have multiple ingredients or single ingredients, but it's a single product. So generally, the majority of the time, it's a single product. Sometimes it's a pack. The packs themselves contain SCDs or products, individual products. Sometimes there could be a pack within a pack. It gets kind of complicated. But for the most part, you can think about a pack as containing multiple individual products, and an individual product is just itself. Products contain ingredients, and they can contain multiple ingredients, or they can contain single ingredients. If a product has multiple ingredients, that multiple ingredient concept is represented by two different individual ingredients. So product to multiple or single ingredients. If it's a multiple ingredient product, you can get down to the individual ingredients to know what those individual ingredients are. And then we also have the potential of an individual ingredient also having a precise ingredient, usually like a salt form. So like fluoxetine versus fluoxetine hydrochloride. The other thing about products is they can have dose forms, and then those dose forms can be represented as part of a dose form group. So that's another linkage from product. And then lastly, the ingredient strength is represented by a combination of the product and the ingredient that you care about in that product. So like for fluoxetine, 4 milligrams per mil, the strength of that is 4 milligrams per mil. And so this is kind of how I think about the data model of medications within RxNorm. One thing we didn't talk about, there's another section of this which represents brand products, which is definitely important for various applications of drug knowledge and particularly like drug pricing and the financial aspect of medications. But it's kind of a mirror image of the clinical product size. So just to make things a little bit more simple, we're leaving that out here. But NDCs can represent a brand and a clinical product if it's a brand name NDC, or if it is a generic NDC, it wouldn't have an associated brand, it would just have a clinical product. But every NDC should have a clinical product because that's what it represents, clinically. So this hierarchy is something that I kind of came up with. I mean, how working with RxNorm and people that have worked with RxNorm have helped inform this for sure. But this is just how I personally think about this. And the next lesson we're going to talk about is how to use this model and write queries with it that might be a little bit more approachable than starting from scratch with RxNorm and writing queries against RxNorm. So we'll see you next time.